we pick up the papers and see images just like those that we saw flashing throughout that film. Images of social problems, environmental problems, and economic problems. Problems that are destroying the very fabric of the world that we live in, and problems that are showing no sign of stopping. There are many ideas that are presented to us about how to solve these, and how to solve each of them individually. But while these problems aren't stopping, it's true to say that fundamentally these solutions are not working. But what if there was one solution? What if everything was connected? We're here today to talk about ecocide. Ecocide is basically the long-term destruction of the environment, which leads to social problems and onto economic problems, and provides one solution for all of these at its core. And it's probably the only solution that can support the world and save it from the current situation. I'm here today with activist Vivienne Westwood and with Priska. Priska is a volunteer for the End Ecocide campaign. She is originally from Germany and been in London for the last year and a half. Priska, could you just tell us a bit more about ecocide?
So basically, we are a citizens initiative, so we are entirely volunteers run, and we have the aim to introduce a new law, first of all in the European Union, but we see that pretty much as a first step to introducing a worldwide new law. And with this new law, basically, what we request is a criminal liability for what we call ecocide. So the word ecocide actually derives from the Greek word for oikos, which means as much as our home, and the word cedere, which is Latin, and means as much as kill. So literally it translates to killing our home, and that's what we are doing at the moment. So there is a legal definition of the word ecocide, which is defined as the extensive damage, destruction, or even loss of ecosystems. And what we request is that this has to become a crime for which both decision makers in politics and business, as well as the corporations, can be held accountable according to criminal law. Because we see large-scale damage and destruction on this earth, and the current laws are not enough to deter this from happening. So basically, in the European Union, citizens have a very strong new tool which only works since 2012 actually. So we are kind of some pioneers in a way. And this new tool is called the European Citizens Initiative. So what it means is that if 1 million Europeans sign online or on paper for a new law, then the European Commission is legally obliged to consider it. So basically we can put issues on the agenda, and we have as much power as the European Commission or as the European Parliament. So this is a very strong tool. And we want to use this tool, and actually we already had first success, which is that it was at all accepted for signature collection, because this demonstrates that if there's political will, the European Union actually has the power to introduce such a law. It's nothing idealistic, it's a real possibility. So now we have to collect these 1 million signatures, and we actually only have 1 week left, so we're very much, in front of the end. But we have achieved already over 100,000 signatures, so we believe we can get many more. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today.
Fantastic. Could you just tell us a bit about the history of the campaign, just very, very quickly?
Yeah, so basically the law of ecocide is not a new concept. It has been around actually since the 1970s and 80s. In 1972 there was a conference, the Stockholm Conference, that probably many of you know, which was the conference that established the United Nations Environmental Programme and was one of the first big conferences for the environment. And at this conference, there was a parallel summit where Olof Palme, the back then Prime Minister of Sweden, was actually also speaking. In this summit, they discussed the concept of ecocide. So it was around since then, and it pretty much arose out of the history of the Vietnam War and the large-scale damage that was done there. There was a deliberate, intentional destruction of the environment for a military purpose. So originally, this was the idea, to prevent this from happening in the future. So it was included in a lot of drafts of the Rome Statute, which is the document that today established the international crimes against peace, which can be judged in front of the International Criminal Court. So basically, it was included in the draft, but it was taken out at the very last minute. And the only thing that remained is the damage to the natural environment, which is a crime now in wartime. So we have a very paradox situation, where in wartime it's not allowed to destroy ecosystems for the purpose of war, but in peacetime it is. So what we really want is to update the law. And in 2007 there was the British lawyer, Polly Wiggins, that you might be familiar with. And she basically rediscovered the concept and she introduced it to the United Nations in 2010. So basically in the United Nations Law Commission, they're already discussing it and to make it an international crime. And then I was at a conference last year in 2012, and I heard Polly speaking, and I thought it's the perfect idea. It's exactly what this war means. So that's why we were like, I knew the tool of the European Citizens Initiative, so that's why we thought about introducing it. And yeah, that's how it started. So we started building a team, we wrote the proposal, we handed it in, and we started collecting signatures. And here we are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Priska. That's really inspirational. Vivienne, why do you support this initiative?
The first thing I want to do is to show you this map. 5 degrees is 5 degrees hotter than it was in 1800, and it's in dispute whether we've already passed 2 degrees more or not. If you pass 2 degrees, you can't help going to 5. And this is the world in 5 degrees. We don't know how quick it could happen, but it could happen within generations. And it will be inevitable and unstoppable. You know, we don't know how quickly the Arctic will melt, but these things are in the pipeline. Now then, what is absolutely crazy is that the World Bank predicts 5 degrees of warming. The International Energy Agency predicts 5 degrees of warming. The PricewaterhouseCoopers does. In the time of the Labour government, Hilary Wedgwood Benn predicted 2 degrees of warming. He warned everybody, don't build your houses there, it'll get flooded. Don't plant potatoes anymore, plant sunflowers. But without ever any mention going into the public realm that once you get to 2 degrees, it goes to 5 anyway, and it means mass extinction. That map means mass extinction. And so we're talking about terrible damage being done, for example, in the Alberta tar sands. And, but more than that, it's also the damage on the Earth's surface itself, killing people, poisoning things. But it's also what goes into the environment. So we're on an unstoppable course unless we stop. And we have to stop people. And that's why fracking is so important in this country. I've got a friend in Canada who just wrote to me about the tar sands. He said that in British Columbia, where he lives, a majority of the population is really against it, especially the First Nation people, the Native Americans. And but that doesn't stop the government. And now the next plan is they actually want to flood a valley which is so fertile, and they want to flood the valley by building the dam for the purpose of providing energy for the people who are wrecking the earth with the tar sands. That's it. So I hope the people in this country are getting fed up with everybody selling off their assets to business people and pretending that it's all in their interest. I hope they realise that these bribes are because the government's getting desperate to try and sell them off without even usually giving a penny. And so I hope people are getting aware. It's our only hope. Anyway, so when I heard about these people, ecocide, I had only heard of ecocide a couple of years ago. I thought, oh, what a brilliant word. That's really true. We're practising ecocide on a terrible scale. Bit by bit, area by area, and ship by ship and everything. But I didn't know about them. I didn't know that that there was a legal possibility of making that a concrete crime. And so I think it's very interesting that this lady who's sitting next to me what happened is that Polly, the lawyer, a couple of years ago rediscovered this thing on some statute books that had been wiped away, and decided to take it up again and try to get it through the courts. And then the next thing that happened is that she heard her talking, Priska, and so it started one person trying to do something. That's what everybody has to try to do. It's one person, no matter how effective you are. I'm talking to you. If you then go and speak to somebody else, I have done my job, I'm being effective, I am helping to change the world, I hope. Anyway, so I just think it's a very, very good idea. Everything counts, everything helps, and it's definitely a crime. Thank you.
Everything green will be inhabitable, at Brighton Green. Everything red, Florence, forget it, nobody will be able to go there at all. Maybe they can, maybe some workers with some solar panels for a few people that are left. But can you imagine the increasing crises that we have today because of this thing starting? And nobody will be able to help anybody. The acceleration of death and destruction is just unimaginable, and it's happening quicker and quicker.
Thank you so much for that, Vivienne. That was a beautiful insight and just a fantastic call to action. Okay, so if you want to ask questions, I'm going to take two at a time. Could I take my first question? At the back there?
Hi, yeah, just for 100,000 signatures, you've got a week to get the rest. When did you start this? Have you got any chance of it actually happening?
Okay, and the lady behind?
What role do designers have in bringing about change?
Yeah, I'll answer the role of designers first. You make a t-shirt, I mean, that's one thing I did. I mean, you just have to open your mouth whenever you can, just like anybody who's got a chance to open their mouth. That's my answer. But I think it's really, I was asking Priska the very same question. What you're going to do, you've got such a short time. You've got 100,000, you need 1 million. And one thing for sure, she was explaining to me that to actually sign the petition is a big thing. People have to give their date of birth, their identity, all this kind of thing in order to do it. It's quite a commitment, it's a legal commitment. It's not quite as easy as just pressing the button. You have to really be committed. So it's a wonderful achievement, this 100,000. And she's also explained, but I would like to give it to her anyway, but what do the European Commission say? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we want more signatures anyway, of course we do. But,
yeah. So there are two elements of it. So the first thing that Vivienne was already mentioning, this is quite a bureaucratic element. So when we started this, we thought, oh yeah, it's very easy, you know, we just get the form, we get people to sign. 1 million is 0.2% of the EU population, shouldn't be that much. But actually, as it turns out, the form is not very user-friendly, it's very ugly, it has a lot of text, a very small sign now button that you really can't find if you know. There are also the paper forms out there, so you can have a look at the wonderful paper forms, which are also very grey and have a lot of text. So this is one problem. The second problem is the huge amount of data requirements that people have to give. You know, some people in some countries, like for example Poland or Bulgaria, they have to give a unique birth number. It's like a social security number. It's a number that you get once in your life. And you know, especially in times of NSA spying allegations, in times of data theft and so on, people are very hesitant to provide these details. Luckily in the UK, it's only the address, the nationality, and the date of birth. So that's okay. But yeah, this is one big deterrent. And there are a lot of other elements to the bureaucracy that I can detail later if you're interested. But the second thing is, so why only 100,000 now, and can we still make it? I think, well, depends how much media coverage we get. Potentially we can still make it. Some other initiatives, for example, there was one citizens initiative which achieved the aim of 1 million. They got 1.9 million, but they were organized by the labor unions. So of course you cannot compare that with a citizens initiative that is entirely run by volunteers and an initiative that is run by one of the largest organizations in Europe. But basically what they managed to get into a talk show on German TV, and after they were in this talk show, in 2 weeks they had 1 million. They went from 50,000 to over 1 million, just with one show, one TV show. So this means, you know, there's still a chance, but of course it's quite small. But it doesn't matter, because even if we don't achieve the 1 million, we have already spoken to the European Parliament, because there's also the possibility of an ordinary petition. So even if we don't achieve the 1 million threshold, the Parliament has said they would accept our initiative as a petition instead. So that's what we will try to do. We will hand it into the European Parliament, so it will be discussed anyways. So that's why it's still important. The more signatures, the better. And why we only have 100,000 now? So I think there are a few elements to that. But first of all, when we started this, basically we were a group of very few people. There are only 4 people that were there in the beginning that are still there. So basically we were 4. You know, we had an idea. We had this big vision of making ecocide a crime in Europe and beyond. And we thought, okay, 1 million signatures, you know, we can get it. Avas gets lots of signatures anyways. So we had this vision, we had this idea. We thought the world needs to know, Europe needs to know, Europe needs to deal with this issue because it's such a powerful law if it can be implemented. So we started this. We all had different backgrounds. Like for example, my background is not in environment. My background is in public policy, so I didn't, you know, have any networks in the environmental movement that could be useful and so on. So we basically started building the network from scratch. We started building an infrastructure of volunteers from scratch. I mean, I'm very proud that today you can see some of the volunteers here, and there are many, many more all over Europe that give their time and their energy to this cause. And we started building partnerships with organizations and so on, but all of this takes time to pay off. And now we have actually reached a moment where the signatures are increasing on a much faster kind of frequency. So, well, we hope that in the last week, many people see this and many people decide to sign and decide to make their voice heard. And then we'll take it to the next level afterwards.
So the first question was, do politicians do enough in the Ecocide campaign? And the second one was the difference between the Citizens Initiative and the petition.
So first of all, what I want to say that it's, for us, it's clearly not linked to any political party. This is something that's very important for us. We are totally politically independent. We have supporters from different parties, like for example, Jo Leinen from the Social Democrats in Germany, or we have Corinne Lepage, who is a French liberal, actually. So we have supporters from the different parties. And in a way, the beauty of the law of ecocide is that it fits with any kind of ideological ideas that you have, because the social democrats, it's very clear about how it fits, because it will ensure social justice. It will ensure that those who are responsible for the damage are liable for it and they pay for it. So in a way, it's good for all the people suffering from ecocide. They're usually the socially disadvantaged, they're the economically disadvantaged. They are like, for example, indigenous communities, poor people that work in mines, the people, you know, that live close to the fracking sites. Those are the people that suffer. And the Social Party, of course, has, so that's clearly the link how the Social Party can support the law of ecocide. If you look at the liberals, if we destroy our planet, you know, we won't be free. We won't be free to act anymore, like we won't have our liberty anymore. So of course, from a liberal point of view, you can clearly support this law. From a conservative point of view, even more, because the whole point of the law of ecocide is to conserve and to preserve this planet for future generations. So it's very clear that this also can fit with the conservative values. So for us, it's very important to make it clear that this is not linked to any political party. We have support from many different parties, including the Greens, but as I said, also socialists and liberals. And yeah, we really want to take everybody on this journey with us. And the second question was, what is exactly the difference between a European Citizens Initiative and a petition? So the difference is that for the Citizens Initiative, there's a legal duty to react. So if there's the 1 million signatures, the Commission has a legal duty to, first of all, meet with us, discuss the proposal that we handed in, and then have a public hearing in the European Parliament, so we would be able to present it, it would be discussed, and so on. And then they will have to adopt a formal response in which they outline what they are intending to do and what are their reasons for doing that. So it's a very, very strong tool because they have to respond. Whereas an ordinary petition, you know, it's basically up to the petitions committee in the parliament to decide what they do with it. So they can either just write back a nice letter saying, oh, thank you very much for your petition, we take it into consideration and that's it. Or they could decide to say, yes, we think this is an important issue. And if they decide to say, yes, we think this is an important issue, then they have the power to forward it to other committees in the parliament or even the plenary. So then, you know, it could also have quite an effect. So this will then, of course, depend on the decision of the petitions committee. So this is the difference.
Good luck with the rest of the campaign. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last that everyone's going to hear of the End Ecocide campaign. Thank you.